Everything happened somewhere, and the somewhere where we are now is Shiloh, or in Hebrew, Shiloh. Shiloh is significant in the Bible for a number of reasons. Number one, this is the place where, according to the text, Joshua divided up the tribal portions. So on these mountainsides around here, you can see the tribes of Israel gathering, and Simeon, this is your portion. Judah, this is your portion. Issachar, Zebulun, you go to the north with Naphtali. That's your portion, the Galilee for Naphtali. Asher, you have along the coast up towards, he wouldn't have said Lebanon, but up along the coast towards Lebanon. Manasseh, this is yours, and you get some more on the other side. Ephraim, you get over by the coast, just southwest of here. And each of the tribes would receive their portion. Benjamin, you go south, and you'll find a wonderful plateau. That's for you. This is where Joshua divided up the tribal portions. But it's also significant because this is the place when the Israelites crossed into the land under Joshua, under the guidance of God. They received what God had given them. This is the place where they placed the tabernacle at Shiloh, or Shiloh. Shiloh means resting place. And this is where God would rest. This is where the tabernacle was. And it would be something of a picture, because to my right and to your left is a mountaintop, and to my left, your right, is another mountaintop. And you have a picture here, in my opinion, of the resting place that God's house would be, the temple in Jerusalem. On one side, the Western Hill. On the other side, the Mount of Olives. And both of those peaks are higher than Mount Moriah, where the temple would be. And there is something about God, isn't there? A kind of humility that, yes, he's on a high place, but he doesn't always choose the highest place. There's something humble about God dwelling with man, where God accommodates us, not considering glory something to be grasped, but he empties himself. I wonder if that's part of the picture that's going on here, with the mountain on the right and on the left, and Shiloh in between. It's not on the highest mountain. I want to talk to you about Shiloh, and I want to think about the idea that Shiloh, or Shiloh, means rest. And I want to share with you this concept. Rest needs work. Rest needs work. It was a lofty time when Joshua came into the land with that generation that crossed the Jordan River. That generation that followed as city after city collapsed before them and they received the land. There was great worship and celebration of God. But then the subsequent generation and the subsequent generation, in time, though Israel had received the land, they did not master it. And in time, the land mastered them. God appointed judges, something that he had instructed in Deuteronomy chapter 17 for the Israelites to do. When you get into the land, appoint judges. God appointed judge after judge after judge after judge. And each time there was a judge, there was a time of shalom, a time of peace, a time of reprieve, a time of blessing. And then once the judge died, the people didn't appoint another one. Instead, they were swayed by the land and the people of the land, and they fell into a kind of slavery every time, a kind of oppression. Judge after judge after judge after judge. Well, there came a time when the Philistine threat was great. And the high priest here at Shiloh was a fellow by the name of Eli. And you know that God is light and in him there is no darkness. And so, when you learn that Eli's eyes are dim, you know that he can't see well. And he can't see well not because he isn't close to the presence of God, because he's high priest at the tabernacle, but he isn't close to the presence of God. His sons, Hophni and Phinehas, both rebellious, abusive men, reckless men, very reckless indeed. Well, the Philistine threat is large. And the Israelites go to deal with the Philistines, but they're beaten back. So it comes to them the idea that the ark is the footstool of God. So let's take this ark into battle. And when the Philistines hear of this, they're in terror. They're fearful. In fact, they basically say to each other, sign your wills before we go into battle. Because they're taking the Ark of the Covenant into battle. We'll fight. We don't expect to win. And so, a great clash. The Israelites are the ones who are defeated. The Philistines are the ones who are victorious. Well, in that battle, Hophni and Phinehas perish. Now, it's Phinehas, or in Hebrew, Pinchas, I want to center on. Because we've heard that name before in the text. The story of Phinehas, the first Phinehas, or Pinchas, the story of the first Pinchas happens on the plains of Moab with the children of Israel. Moses is still alive. His time is short, but he's still alive. And there's an atrocity going on. The Moabite women, under the guidance of Balaam, have seduced Israelite men into worshiping their gods. And their gods are fertility gods. And so, there is recorded in the text a story of an Israelite man and a Moabite woman copulating at the door of the tent of meeting. The religion of the Moabites, as the religion of all the fertility cults in the ancient Near East, were what we call sympathetic religions. In other words, you demonstrated to the deity what you wanted the deity to do. In this case, they wanted Molech or Shamash or Baal to rain down his seed on the earth. And that was enacted with these two copulating at the tent of meeting. Some scholars suggest that it's not just the entrance to the tabernacle, the people's court, not even the entrance to the priest court, but there are some scholars who suggest that it's the entrance to the Holy of Holies. Moses is standing and watching as others beside him. And there's another Phinehas, Pinchas, who sees this and he's outraged. He takes up a spear and he rams it through the two of them as they're copulating, the text says. And he was made high priest because he was zealous for the Lord. Yes, the son of Eli, Phinehas, has fallen far, far from his namesake. So the Ark of the Covenant, under the leadership of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, is taken out of the Holy of Holies, brought to the field of battle. And God, it wasn't that God was unable to defeat the Philistines. That's not the point. God was unwilling to defeat them that way. He was unwilling to be used by such reckless and abusive hands. There was no rest for God anymore at Shiloh, not in the hands of men like these. Phinehas would die in the battle, and the whole story is summed up in the name of his son, Ichabod. And Ichabod means the glory has departed. And the ark, the tabernacle, would never return to Shiloh. It would fall into the hands of the Philistines. It would go to Beit Shemesh, and later it would reside at a place called Kiryat Jearim. But at Shiloh, no. God would not rest on a smaller hill between two larger ones until it would come to the son of his beloved, David. The son of David, Solomon, who would build the house of God. And even that house, God could not rest in. Because you see, rest needs work. In fact, it's not until his house made of living stones that his Holy Spirit would dwell in. It's there that God will ultimately rest and work through his people. Simply put, rest needs work. And the work it needs, I think, is best summed up by the prophet Micah, who says, "He has showed you, O man, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God." Everything happens somewhere. At Shiloh, the place of rest. Rest needs work. The work that is required to rest with God, The good that He showed us is to act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. In that, my friends, God can rest, and we with Him.